When we think of the Gallipoli Campaign of World War I, the images that often come to mind are of British and Anzac soldiers storming the beaches of a desolate Turkish peninsula. But there's a major part of this story that's frequently overlooked: the crucial, costly, and ultimately tragic role played by France. This is the story of the French at Gallipoli, a tale of immense sacrifice for a campaign doomed from the start. In 1915, the Great War was locked in a brutal stalemate on the Western Front. The Allies were desperate for a breakthrough. The plan was audacious: force a passage through the Dardanelles Strait, knock the Ottoman Empire out of the war, and open a vital supply route to their struggling ally, Russia. While Britain led the charge, France was a key partner from the very beginning. Beyond just supporting their allies, the French had their own strategic interests in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Levant, regions they eyed for future influence. To this end, they assembled a formidable force, the Corps Expéditionnaire d'Orient, or the Eastern Expeditionary Corps, led initially by General Albert Dumas. This was a diverse army of nearly 80,000 men. It included battle-hardened troops from mainland France, but also a significant number of colonial soldiers from Senegal, the famed Tirailleurs Sénégalais, and from across North Africa. These men would soon face one of the toughest fights of their lives. The campaign began not on land, but at sea. The plan was to use the overwhelming power of the Allied navies to smash through the Ottoman coastal defenses lining the Dardanelles. A powerful squadron of French battleships, including the Suffren Gaulois Charlemagne and the mighty Bouvet, sailed alongside the British Royal Navy. Their job was to silence the heavy guns that guarded the narrow waterway. On March 18, 1915, the Allied fleet launched its grand assault. The French ships steamed into the strait, bravely trading fire with the Ottoman forts. But the defenders had a hidden weapon, a recently laid line of naval mines. The pre-dreadnought battleship Bouvet struck one of these mines. The explosion was catastrophic. In less than 2 minutes, the massive warship capsized and sank, taking with it nearly 650 of her crew. It was a horrifying, sudden loss. That same day, 2 other French battleships, the Gaulois and the Suffren, were also heavily damaged. The disaster of March 18th was a turning point. It became brutally clear to the Allied command that naval power alone was not enough. They couldn't just sail through the Dardanelles. If they wanted to open the strait, they would have to land troops and take the peninsula by force. The stage was set for a bloody ground invasion. When the land campaign began on April 25th, the French were assigned a critical, multifaceted role. While the main British and Anzac forces landed on the western side of the peninsula at Cape Helles and Anzac Cove, a French contingent was sent to the Asian shore at Kumkel. This was a diversionary attack, designed to confuse the Ottoman command and draw defenders away from the main landings. After this initial operation, the main body of the French corps was deployed to the southern tip of the peninsula, at Cape Helles. They were given the crucial task of holding the right flank of the Allied line, a sector stretching from the village of Krithia down to the coast. Here, the French soldiers entered the same living nightmare as their allies. They faced relentless artillery bombardments, constant sniper fire from well-entrenched Ottoman defenders, and the grim realities of trench warfare. Disease, particularly dysentery, ran rampant through the camps, and the blistering summer heat was merciless. The French were central to the major Allied offensives aimed at capturing the high ground, known as the First, Second, and Third Battles of Krithia. Each one was a story of courageous but futile attacks against nearly impregnable Ottoman positions. Casualties were horrendous. A particularly brutal section of the French front was the Kariv-Stier, a steep, treacherous ravine that became the site of some of the most ferocious fighting of the entire campaign. Men fought and died in desperate close-quarters combat for every inch of this unforgiving terrain. The leadership also suffered. On June 4, 1915, the respected and charismatic French commander, General Henry Giroud, was severely wounded by an exploding artillery shell. He lost an arm and a leg, a devastating blow to the morale of his troops. General Giroud's injury symbolized the immense price the French were paying. Throughout these struggles, the colonial troops, especially the Senegalese Tirailleurs, earned a fearsome reputation. They were renowned for their bravery in assault, often leading the charges against enemy trenches, and for their tenacity in defense. However, these men from West Africa suffered terribly. They were not accustomed to the cold, wet conditions of the Gallipoli trenches, and their casualty rates were disproportionately high. Their sacrifice is a poignant chapter in the campaign's history. As months dragged on, the stalemate on Gallipoli became absolute. The trenches had become a permanent bloody fixture. and the initial strategic goals seemed more distant than ever. With the failure of the August offensive and a brutal winter approaching, the Allied High Command finally made the difficult decision to abandon the campaign. The dream of forcing the Dardanelles was over. The evacuation was perhaps the only successful part of the entire operation. The French contingent was withdrawn from the Hellas front in stages. With the last troops leaving by early January 1916, they managed to slip away under the cover of darkness, without alerting the Ottoman forces, avoiding a final, catastrophic battle. For France, the Gallipoli Campaign was a story of immense sacrifice for zero strategic gain. Out of the nearly 80,000 men they committed to the fight, an estimated 27,000 became casualties, killed, wounded, missing, or victims of disease. It remains a somber and often forgotten chapter in French military history, remembered for the incredible valor of its soldiers in the face of a tragic, ill-conceived plan. Though a military failure, the campaign had lasting consequences. It hardened French imperial ambitions in the Middle East, which were later formalized in the post-war Sykes-Picot Agreement, leading to the French mandate over Syria and Lebanon. For the Ottoman Empire and the modern Turkish Republic that would rise from its ashes, the French role is remembered as part of the collective enemy defeated, in the legendary defense of Çanakkale, victory that helped forge a new national identity under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, one of the Ottoman commanders at Gallipoli. The story of the French at Gallipoli is a vital reminder of the global nature of World War I and the shared sacrifice of the nations involved. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this hidden history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten history. See you next time.